It is a magnificent day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, and changemaker, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, end of life, and all the messiness in between, long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear, so we can live fully now. Most of the time, and most of us have been in the deep trenches of grief and realized how ill-prepared we were. We did not have coping skills, strategies, a belief about life and death to help us navigate through. And now we want to do it differently. We want to create change. We want to normalize conversations. And we know that it starts with us. We need to start with ourselves. And so I honor you for being here. And I love having these deep, wonderful conversations together. But before we start that, I always want to bring a little humor, because I love to bring my message with heart, humor, and humanness, because it's already serious enough. And I also just love to share a little fun fact. So I have shared in the past how volleyball became a very big part of our lives. Our son Tanner, who was a Lego builder, he was never going to be athletic, and then he just blossomed into this incredible 6'4" volleyball player. And so it became a very big, important part of our lives. At games and tournaments, I was like hopping and cheering and jumping and dancing, and I gave it my all. I just allowed my true self to just be out there, which meant I was a little crazy sometimes, but I think I made people laugh. I was just my authentic self. And it was so incredible. At one tournament, the boys earned a silver medal, which was amazing. It was the first year they'd ever played together. And there was an extra medal. And the captain of the team came up to Tanner and said, I'd like to give you this extra medal to give to your mom for being such a champion cheerleader. Oh, are you serious? Yes, this just melted my heart. I love this medal. I love that it just meant that much to the team. And so I was absolutely thrilled. And I will always display that medal with pride. So I just thought I would share that fun fact with you, because I just love it, and I hope it made you smile. Okay, so let's get started. And of course, before we do, I always have my ritual of landing here, quieting the noise that is in my head and on the other side of that door. I want to be fully present here, set an intention. I want to share what your heart needs to hear. I invite you to do the same. Whatever ritual works for you, to just take this time, create this space to just hear what it is that you need. And so for me, I just, 2 feet flat on the ground, I like to close my eyes and take 2 slow inhales, inhaling through my nose, exhaling through my mouth. And as I'm exhaling, I intentionally say, I'm just going to let go of any energy, anything that does not serve me. And I invite you to join me or create your own ritual, whatever works for you. So I'm going to close my eyes and inhale slowly through my nose. Exhale through my mouth. One more time. We truly underestimate the value of pausing to take slow, deep breaths, focusing on our breathing in whatever we want to do when we want to be intentional, or our emotions are getting the better of us, to just pause and take slow, deep, intentional breaths and focusing on them. So let's begin. For today, I was reflecting back on my journey with Win-Win Women and these wonderful shows, all the other beautiful show hosts that I have connected with, and the shows I've learned from. It's been a truly incredible journey. And for me, I started, I believe mine was the very first show, August 27th, 2021. And you know, so much has changed and evolved since that time when we began this journey. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and the effects of that continue to ripple. And you know, in doing this and just sharing a little bit about the beginning of my journey and the first shows, and I think I want to just kind of review and go through the different show topics and really think about new things I've learned or what has changed since then. And yes, like that very first episode, welcome to navigating grief with heart and humor. And you know, I take that title to heart, and how, you know, on this journey we often feel like in our hardest times there is no room for humor, and you know, if we can't give too much of our hearts because we will suffer too much. And you know, here's the thing: when we just show up with heart and humor, with, you know, like I always say, perhaps not the time to tell a knock knock joke, but whenever someone begins to cry, and first of all, we Canadians, like, we apologize for everything, and we certainly apologize when we cry. And I think that that's like most places, you know, people start to cry and then, oh, I'm sorry, I'm crying. And you know, I just paused and I said, we don't need to apologize for our tears. I said, you don't need to apologize for your tears. You are crying because you are sad. You are crying because you are sad. And I also, you know, I acknowledge that. And your tears are beautiful, heartwarming, heart-wrenching, because you care. And the humor is, I always say to people, I will just say, just so you know, I'm mandated to make at least one person cry a day. So thank you. I can check that off my list again right now. And you know, they have a little laugh in the midst of their tears. And for me, that's just such a beautiful moment. You know, it's like a little grief break in the midst of some challenge in their grief. And I know they know I care, right? I am one to wear my heart on my sleeve. And if my tears are going to flow, I don't try to stop them. You know, people, even when we say give people the space to grieve, create a safe space for them to allow their feelings. Yes, and I don't believe we have to bottle up our feelings either. I mean, we don't want to be crying so hard we're on the floor and they have to console us. Perhaps we can be a little more in check than that, but it's just so incredible how in this journey and as it has evolved, that we continue to apologize for our tears, and we continue to, you know, get stuck in the seriousness, the heartache of grief, and not allow those moments, those little lighter moments. And I believe that humor is also a wonderful healer. As I've always shared, one of my heroes is Patch Adams, who, as many have seen, movie Patch with Robin Williams, speaking of humor, and who lives in my heart forever, and his legacy continues. What a beautiful human. And he starred in a movie about Dr. Patch Adams' beginning of his career, and where he really struggled, and eventually Patch became a clown, a doctor who's a clown. A clown is a doctor, and he travels around the world and to this day, and he brings humor to the hardest, most gut-wrenching situations, war-torn countries, orphanages, people who are suffering excessively. And I love when people ask Patch, who do you want to see first? He says, who is suffering the most? And he says, I'm able to do this in my clown clothes with 30 toys in his pocket. I do this not because I think I can change it because I'm okay to be there, because I want to be there. And he shows up with heart and humor. The power of that and the ripple that we never know, even in those situations where, you know, it is a dying person. And just think about this. One of their last memories was of this kooky guy in a clown costume and a clown nose, and maybe had some laughter. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we allowed ourselves more of that? Because it's already serious enough, isn't it? And so I carry that heart and humor with me wherever I go. And I'm also very, very intentional about knowing that humor, that, you know, feeling, that warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart, it's up to me, right? Like there's no one else. If there's funny movies or people are funny, how great. It is my responsibility, or I'm the only one that can open my heart to allowing the humor, to allowing the joy as I'm struggling. And even at this time, I am struggling with something that is very challenging and heart-wrenching in our lives right now. And I create space to allow my really hard feelings and my tears. And then, and at the same time, I am very intentional about saying, okay, I need to feed my heart right now, my heart and soul, because it is aching. I'm going to bring in humor when I need it. I'll watch a funny movie. One of the things I love the most on Facebook is silly little, there's little clips with silly dog videos or animal videos, or these silly birds and monkeys and dogs and cats, and I will flip through them and I will just laugh. I am not waiting for someone else to make me feel better. Only I can do that. And I can also invite others, my village, invite others to support me. And we can do that. And when we are in tune with what we need, when we check in mentally, physically, and emotionally, we better understand ourselves and what we need. And we can also better ask for what others are able to help us, how they are able to help us. And again, as I think of these last couple of years and that navigating grief with heart and humor, one of the things that I know I have gotten much better at, you know, I think that we as a society, we really applaud people. And I want to have these conversations over and over. We applaud people who give, right? And even ourselves, I feel really good if I'm giving and I'm, you know, doing these talks and I love it. And what I am choosing to do is also be a great getter, great at receiving, right? Like receiving help, receiving support, receiving whatever it is I may need, and celebrating that. Just think about that. When we say, oh, you know, oh, they did this, and they did all these things for other people, and we celebrate that. When do we celebrate the person who receives, right? Where do we say, oh, you're so amazing, you gave yourself this, you gave yourself the space to grieve, you had a bath, you went for a walk and had a massage. Oh, so wonderful. And that is really one of the things that it was kind of like this big aha moment in the last couple of years, is how we really celebrate giving, right? And we need to get better at celebrating receiving, and that heart and humor and humanness. I always say that was the other thing that I kind of in all of my talks, I would always say, I share my message with heart and humor. And I've added, I share my message with heart, humor, and humanness. And my humanness is that I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to say something that lands the wrong way, that wasn't as helpful as I wanted it to be. I'm not going to be perfect. I will be messy, and we all are. And it will be uncomfortable, right? It will be uncomfortable. And along the way, I continue to learn, unlearn, and evolve, and really accept that life is unpredictable, to prepare for anything, and that change is the only constant. And so again, I think that even in this, looking back, I think it's really important for us to look back and say, wow, yes, at that time, this is what was most important to me, and to celebrate how far we've come, what we've done. And that is another thing we tend to do, right? We could do 10 things right, and one thing kind of went sideways, and that's what we focus on. And I want to focus on all of it. It's a yes, and yeah, I wish I would have done that differently. And look at all these other wonderful things I've done. So I celebrate all the shows I've created and all the content that I've shared from my heart, and all the beautiful, incredible wisdom I have gathered from other win-win women, from beautiful, incredible teachers from around the world. And I also accept that I will never know it all. Even in the genre of grief, transitions, end of life, there is going to be learning, unlearning, and evolving for the rest of my life. and sometimes that's hard for us to accept, right? We want to get there. Oh yes, I've got it all. I know all of this stuff. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. And sometimes the things that we believe so deeply evolve and change. And you think, wow, okay, yeah, that was a part of my fabric for so long, and we need to let go of that. It is a beautiful journey, and heartwarming and heart-wrenching at times. It's all of it, and grief and joy that we navigate. And in the second show, I think that I shared one of the most important pieces of creating change in our lives, of becoming proactive and not reactive. We are always reactive. There's a crisis, a death, a trauma, something, a transition, and we react to it. And that is what creates excessive suffering. And for me, as a proactive living consultant, because I love teaching, I love learning and evolving and becoming proactive, I think no matter what we want to do on this journey, no matter what calls us to this journey, it may have nothing to do with grief, transitions, and end of life, but I will tell you what, it is going to show up in your life. So if you are called to be of service to others, especially no matter what, if you have a family, no matter what, one of the first questions and most important questions I invite you to consider is, as in my show number 2, what do you believe about life and death? What do you believe about life and death? Think about that. We will, no matter what we are doing, people we love, elephant in the room, will die. And it could destroy us. When we are ill prepared, when that person is our everything, it destroys other relationships, it destroys success, and it can destroy you. And so if we can pause and take that time, what do you believe about life and death? Choose something that will create a soft landing in life. And when death, the death of a relationship, the death of a job or change, whatever it may be, there's big deaths, little deaths, the death of someone, something, whatever it is. If we can have a belief about life and death, that creates a soft landing. So when I think of the death of a person I love or pet or whatever, whoever it may be, I dug deep in and I went on a spiritual journey. I'm not a religious person. I am a spiritual person. And I dug in and I said, okay, what do I believe? Well, I choose to believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that when this physical body dies, that we stay spiritually connected forever. The relationship never ends. It just becomes, it's no longer physical, it's a spiritual relationship, and we are connected forever. And that brings me tremendous comfort. That brings me tremendous comfort in my life. And so I choose to believe that. That does not mean I know that I will grieve. I will grieve the physical presence of that person, of course, and we'll talk more about grief again. But to start with really believing that and accepting that we do not all die of old age. We do not always get a warning. And we do not know what is going on inside someone mentally, physically, or emotionally. I do not get mired in the why, because no reason will ever be good enough. And I just simply accept that life is unpredictable, prepare for anything, and that we are here as long as we are here. And my life is full no matter how long it may be. So I'm going to stop there, because I think that is a beautiful, beautiful conversation to have with yourself, with others. Have it with your family. Awkward conversation coming up. What do you believe about life and death? Have it with your friends. Have it with someone that will have it, a minister, a Buddhist friend, somebody that will have that conversation with you. And then you can go and have the conversation with the people who are even more reluctant. Because here's the thing. The more we bring heart, humor, and humanness to this journey we call life, and the more we normalize conversations about the unpredictability and accept that change is the only constant, that we're here as long as we're here, and have the conversations about life and death, the less we will suffer. We will not suffer excessively. We will grieve, and we can avoid excessive suffering and bring more joy into our lives. Isn't that a wonderful way to live? And so thank you for being willing to have these hard conversations, challenging conversations with me. The truth is that they're more challenging when we have to have them in a crisis, right? Or after. Let's normalize them throughout life. And if we want to support one another, remember that we must learn, unlearn, and evolve continuously. And there's so many beautiful women here on Win Win Women you can learn from, and you can go to my website, loveyourlifetodeath.com, read my book, TED Talk, there's my program. There's so many great resources there also that are from other beautiful teachers. So I thank you for having the courage to have these beautiful conversations. And my call to action is always, if you want to be empowered and resilient on this journey we call life, have those challenging conversations and start with plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Let's continue these juicy conversations in the next episode. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.